I've seen some rather interesting strategies on this map. As sometimes you get proxy tellies over the place. Again, no Legion by either player, needs to be said. But yeah, proxy tellies, air fabs, pelican drops.
Well, I can honestly say you have seen a lot more strategies on this map than I have. Mostly I see a tier 2 vehicle push through the middle. And of course an air fabric to the back to claim the 3 metal spots is gonna be important to stop, as it is of course very hard to raid.
Yeah, as you're spawning on the north side here, in green, bots first, 1-1, air double P-gens, triple P-gens, second mix. You can either reclaim your comm or send a few combat fabs out protected to go and grab some Trico. Meanwhile on the south, you got Flubb here in his standard pink, bots air, and then probably vehicles thereafter. Seems to be his de facto opening build, and the voice you heard before was River for the purposes of the VOD. So yeah, what you were saying with regards to T2 vehicles pushing down the middle, in most cases you'll find that T2 and most pushes really go as the crow flies the shortest route, or as closest to as the crow flies. Simply because, especially if you've got vehicles, they're slow, you want them to get to the base as fast as possible. But of course that's where you're most likely to meet defences and resistance, which is where sometimes you get the background telly, some drops going around. But Firefly coming in from Flubb, getting a good bit of scouting there. He sees nothing out of the ordinary.
Well, he's gonna notice when the fabrics are going to expand to behind the base.
Yep. He's probably got some docks on the way already. Indeed, looks as though he has got some docks already being sent out. So he's got his second bot factory there.
Maybe something nice to point out, of course, is that it's very easy to raid the bases from behind here. As of course most of the defenses will be in the front, and that's where your focus will be. So it's very easy to slip some docks in behind and take out those back metal spots, as there are like 4 or 6 of them that are just easy to raid them, if not defended.
Yeah, and it's not hugely cost effective to do that. You're only getting 2 mechs depending on which side you're going in on, so there's 2 mechs on each side there. But raiding is raiding, right? And especially if you can pick off a fab as you do it, then it really becomes more cost effective, especially if it's early game. Do we have any bombers coming out for either player? It doesn't look as though we do just yet, so no bomber fab sniping this time around.
AsZeal just queued up his advanced vehicle factory, and he started building it. So this is definitely going to be a quick tier 2.
Yeah, quick tier 2, only a little bit earlier than you'd usually anticipate it.
I would expect 1 or 2 more factories before putting it down, but...
Well, I suppose given the distance between the bases, AsZeal thinks that it's worth starting earlier, because then even if his opponent rushes it up later on, he'll still have it ready for the defensive, even if he doesn't get the offensive value out of it.
Of course, downside is that he's missing some factories in tier 1 that Flubb does have. As Flubb has 3 bot factories, he's gonna have an easy time raiding everything that AsZeal may collect during his expansions, during expanding. And AsZeal is gonna have a hard time countering that.
Yeah, I mean that is if AsZeal is going to be hard expanding. It looks as though he's kind of happy where he is at the moment. He's getting up a couple of turrets here and there, and he doesn't really seem to be stretching himself too much. He wants to keep his fabs alive. He wants to make sure that the expansions he has are more secure, and that's going to allow him to be more, how do we say, certain and sure that his I can't think of the words with my cold at the moment, but the T2 is a more safe bet, and it's not going to stall his economy, considering he knows where his safe economy is. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, of course the downside is that he's behind in eco. We're already seeing that Flubb has an advantage of, well, almost around 50-60 metal. That's a lot. And Flubb also going for that tier 2 already. Advanced Viking Factory is at 25%. And AsZeal just finished his. Advanced Fabric just came out. He's still idle. And AsZeal is also going for a massive air spam. He queued up 6 air factories in the north.
I think that's okay. If he gets his defenses he's playing a very defensive game here. One could almost say turtley, because he really hasn't pushed out. He hasn't really been raiding at all, and he's yet to really show his hand. He's got a few docks out in the middle there, but it's in the middle of the trees, so the docks pellets aren't actually going to hit their marks. There goes the combat fab. Can he keep them alive here as they go around grabbing off these mechs? Good bit of raiding there. But yeah, he's waiting for Flubb to come to him. He wants to make sure that he has his T2 force, but of course the negative side effect of that is that Flubb is expanding like wildfire across this map, and it's going to make it a more uphill struggle for AsZeal to actually bring this game back going forward. But he has got 3 levelers now. These docks pushing in here aren't going to do a huge amount when faced with levelers, and they will of course see those levelers. And now Flubb realises the factory exists, or rather the T2 exists, and therefore the factory does as well.
Yes, okay, AsZeal is slowly pushing out with his vehicles. If he can get the air up, he might be able to use it, of course, to push Flubb's expansions back. Some bombers in there, and he just queued them up. Can easily push Flubb back from his expansions, as there's almost no anti-air over there. The only air defense there is that air force of him. AsZeal still moving forward, going through the equator. And is gonna counter another Doc's army.
Yeah, Doc's army is not going to do too well against these vehicle pushers, although the damage will slowly be done over time, I suppose. But it is, at this point, wasted metal, because the docks are there for raiding, not for these army encounters. And Flubb hasn't really done a huge amount of raiding, so in that respect, AsZeal's investments in his slower base defense and, I suppose semi-turtley play is paying off a little bit there, because Flubb just hasn't effectively raided at all. And now with AsZeal pushing out, he can make some headway into the back of Flubb's base here. The thing is, will Flubb be able to get his T2 vehicles over there in time to defend?
Yeah, well, AsZeal is pushing up with the army, is getting bombed soon, although some spinners are in there. The eco at this time is again close together again. AsZeal really pulled his eco back together and is almost equal with Flubb. So yeah, it might have been a good call from AsZeal to play it so close to the base, and now he's slowly expanding.
Well, I'm not entirely sure about splitting up his vehicle force like that.
Yes, no.
That hasn't necessarily paid off very well for him, of course, because his levelers are getting a little bit too close to those larger docks forces. But these 3 can still go around the back and raid some of this mechs, and if they just skirt away from Flubb's forces here and keep themselves alive while raiding, then that will actually be very, very costly for Flubb, who at this stage is just everywhere with the metal. And yet AsZeal is keeping up with him. But that's probably because AsZeal has the T2 in his base, and as Flubb gets his T2 up, he will start to pull away again. These engagements here will not be favourable to AsZeal.
No, I'm afraid AsZeal's push has come to an end.
Well, you say that. Here comes an air trade, all of a sudden
Yeah.
out of nowhere, and AsZeal kind of flops. All of his bombers
Yeah.
go.
Even though he expanded massively in air, he still seems to be losing the air trades. In my opinion, he started pushing up with air too early and should have at least built up his air force a bit longer. But then again, it's hard to know how big the air force is if you can't see it.
Seems as though Flubb has a reasonable vehicle force on AsZeal's front doorstep. Asking whether there's any room at the inn. Of course, with the turret there, he'll have to push up or run away. Looks as though he's pushing up, and it's not necessarily going to work out too well for him. So AsZeal will have bought himself just a little bit of time. He needs to send in those docks, because down goes the turret. The leveler comes in. Will the T2 Fab stay alive? It needs to. It will not. Down it goes.
Yeah, I was really missing the walls at the turret. With an army like this, those walls could have really soaked up a lot of damage and might have even saved the tier 2 fabricator.
Yeah, it was a little bit of misplay perhaps there, but the docks swarming in on these levelers, chinking away at the armour as they do. Down it goes. Only a couple of mechs down there, T2 Fab, and a whole bunch of wreckages to reclaim there, should AsZeal want it. But as we said, with the T2 coming up in Flubb's base, his eco is pulling away now to getting around 500 with Combat Fab Trico. On his 4th T2 vehicle factory now as well. Has he queued up any additional ones? He's queued up an additional 2, 3, 4. So he's building his 5th. And having a look in the army tabs there, should be able to see that Flubb is superior. And again we see a lot of air units that are not going to be handy when defending against vehicles.
Well, of course, but we need to take into account the fact that there is an air force from Flubb as well.
Yes.
And that needs to be countered at some point.
It does, but the thing is, there's so many bumblebees here that are only going to buy AsZeal time, which of course is what he needs, but he also needs to make sure that he doesn't lose them all to Flubb's surprisingly large air force. AsZeal seems to be only building more and more air factories here, so he's sinking more and more eco into that. Here comes another air trade. Bumblebees are going to go down there, but how will AsZeal's air fare against that of Flubb's? Looks as though AsZeal has got the advantage in that one. Will he chase and commit? No, he does not. He wants to see what's coming into his base here. Those hummingbirds are providing valuable vision intel for the longer ranged units there.
Well, that's definitely a cool win from AsZeal in the air. At the same time, on the other side of the map, he is slowly trying to expand, gain some metal, doing some small raiding with levelers even. He just skipped over the boxes for raiding. They are going to be countered. As Flubb is moving up with a sizable, well, medium-sized army.
I mean, what Flubb needs to do at this point is realise that there's more than one way into AsZeal's base, as AsZeal has only had to defend on one front so far. And so, as soon as Flubb realises he can push in on another front and make actual headway on that front, then he should be fine. More bumblebees will be costly again! Flubb managing to pick off those bumblebees, but he loses his air advantage in the process, although he kind of knocks AsZeal down a few pegs as well. But with AsZeal's 10 air factories there, 11 air factories there, that's a lot of air production coming in. But as you say, with the other force from Flubb pushing up on this front now, looks as though AsZeal might just be in a dodgy situation here. He just survives, but 6 levelers to follow that up. Again, in the army tabs, AsZeal actually has the unit number advantage here, but again, a lot of that is air, so we're probably even on the ground count now. It's surprising, given the number of T2 factories that Flubb has.
Yeah, AsZeal definitely has the air advantage, although we shouldn't count on Flubb yet. He has 10 air factories up. So he is really trying to keep the air game up for himself. Let's see, I don't see any storms yet from him, so he has not yet gone desperate. At the same time, AsZeal building a lot of bombers as well to take out those armies, those vehicle armies, and that without much air defense is gonna be a big win for AsZeal.
Yeah, those bombers are really paying for themselves, and I'm really surprised that Flubb has not yet invested in heavy ground-based anti-air. I mean, one or two storms would serve him absolutely fine here. Yet we are still waiting for those to join in with the big force. Actually, no. Having said that, there is one in there. My mistake. So
We have a storm. Oh,
we have a
I had
couple of
not seen
storms.
it yet.
In comes another air trade. Flubb has the advantage this time, though. Down goes all of AsZeal's within seconds. And so now we don't even need the storm. There you go.
Yeah, of course, that was the cost of the bombers, of course. Well, the more bombers you build, the less hummingbirds you have to win the air game. We have a leveler in the back of the base. This is gonna be interesting.
Should just about be okay, though. There is a commander not too far away. I think that leveler doesn't necessarily... Ooh, yeah,
Tier 2 Fabric coming in.
Yeah. It looks as though he's going to be trying to build a T2 bot factory there with a whole...
Yeah. This is not good.
This is... Oh dear. T2 Fab will go down. Down it goes. And AsZeal needs to pay attention to this. Thing is, he's too worried about what's on his front lines right now. He's got Docks hordes going against levelers, and the Docks are just getting focused
They're
down
winning.
there. But yes, they are. They got close and personal, and that's what you want to do with Docks versus levelers. You want to get them in there and force the levelers to sacrifice their power for their slow turret rotation speed. T2 bot factories up for both players. Locusts out for Flubb, although AsZeal's was denied, of course. Starting to be built again now. Levelers still in the back of the base, just
Yeah,
sitting
the
there.
Docks are on their way to take out the leveler. Are they? They're a bit slow though. Yes,
I don't
and
know
there they
what's
are.
going on there. There it goes. Cheeky leveler in the base. And
Yeah.
looking around, Flubb's expansion still massively outstripping that of AsZeal's. And as we see the engagement beginning to happen here, the battle lines are beginning to be drawn on this front now. We will find that...
Well, what I'm seeing is a big spaghetti from Flubb attacking Green's defenses.
yeah, but don't forget that's a lot of docks there. Kind of what AsZeal needs maybe are a couple of shellers in there, but then again against this many levelers, are shellers really going to do all that much? Shellers even from Flubb as well. And that is really going to be a problem for AsZeal now. I don't know why Flubb's pulling back there. Doesn't need to. Oh, he's got some vanguards at the front that got insta focus down.
Yeah, it might be that Flubb doesn't know what's there, whether there's a big army behind it. The intel is not great at that point. Well, small note, the locusts are slowly moving across the planet into the back of the base from AsZeal. They are, however, gonna have to face a single laser defense tower.
They should get close and personal to that, no problem. There we go. Nom 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 nom.
Well,
I
he
don't
did
want to
lose
face
two.
the docks. Ah, not the docks, not the docks.
One left,
one's in.
and
Ooh.
he's gone.
Got shot by a comp. Thing is now, though, while AsZeal has kind of got a large force encroaching in on Flubb's back line, the thing is, Flubb's commander is nowhere near. He is out on the opposite side of the planet there.
And actually very exposed.
He is very exposed, yes. Possibly a couple of Vanguard drops might about do it.
AsZeal's army was scouted by the Air Force from Flubb. But of course, more important, Flubb is moving into the base from AsZeal. Lots of levelers, vanguards in there, storms,
Yeah,
even some shellers. So
this force will be the GG. I doubt very much that AsZeal's attack right now will actually do a huge amount of good. His army is getting picked apart there In come the levelers and the vanguards, and there is nothing to deal with this. Into the army tab again. Massive disadvantage for AsZeal. He's got a whole bunch of hummingbirds that can't do much. Where's the locusts? I'm waiting for them to show their face again. AsZeal's force not
They
pushing
are
it any longer.
Actually near the equator waiting orders.
In they come. And there's the GG
Yes.
from AsZeal. He knows it's over. Down he goes. Not a bad game, all things considered.
No, it was
but,
a very interesting match.
I think it was certainly advantage Flubb for most of the game. It was just a case of Flubb figuring out how he was actually going to get in there, and it was just a case of out-expand and out-build, as is
Yes.
typical.
I expected a bit more from AsZeal. I've played him in the past a lot, and I'm actually used from a lot of use from him that he really expands quite nicely. And yes, not expanding, it isn't really a strong move.